Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. Today we're going to be going through a mashup that I have done for quite a while. Today we're going to be combining Zelda and Elden Ring. This is one that I've wanted to do for a while. This is a really fun idea I had a while back. Today we're going to be imagining our favorite hero of time, Link, as if he were an adventurer in the lands between. Two series that have quite a bit different. Zelda's a much more happy, peppy, upbeat style adventure, whereas Elden Ring is much more dark and much more rooted in realism, as real as fantasy can be. But I do think that these series would go quite well together, so I wanted to imagine what that would be today. I apologize about the quality of the video. Sometimes when I'm rendering from my Adobe app to the actual saving the video, it doesn't translate as well. But here you can see I am roughing out the basic sketch of what I wanted to do. You're going to see quite a few pieces today. This first one is just a rough sketch of what I wanted the outfit to be. I went with the Breath of the Wild version of Link, being the champion's tunic, as well as a bit from Tears of the Kingdom. You can see that I put a prosthetic there. As we get further in, you'll see a lot of similarities with that prosthetic to the one that Melania has. I thought that was a really cool link, LOL, to make between the series, where Link in Tears of the Kingdom loses his arm to Ganondorf's attack, and Melania loses it to the Scarlet Rot. So I thought that was a really cool thing to add. This is actually the first pose that I worked with for the completed drawing. I like the sword over the shoulder look. That's something that they started doing in Dark Souls, where you would hold the great swords and the colossal swords over your shoulder. And I actually did make the Master Sword a great sword. I was kind of torn whether or not to make it a light great sword from the new Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, or a traditional great sword. And I really just liked the great sword a little bit more. Speaking of Shadow of the Erdtree, it's awesome. I love it. Getting back into that really motivated me to finish this video. I've actually had the drawing done for a really long time. I just didn't ever record for it because I didn't want it to be the first video I did on the channel. I wanted to get a kind of introductory video out there, and now that that's done, I felt much more motivated to get this done. You hear I futz around with the eyes quite a bit, and I do end up changing them from those black lifeless dots, don't worry. This drawing, actually, I came back to after a while. I wasn't feeling it for quite a while. You can see there that that's the old Master Sword that I used, and I actually have transitioned into using that Master Sword for something else coming up on the channel, so look forward to that. But I wasn't feeling this drawing. You can see in the top left there, I actually pulled that pose from another drawing that I had done of the same design, but I actually came back to this one after a lot of trial and error with it. I'm here messing around with the cape. Switch up kind of real quickly to the Master Sword. Earlier I posted a video on what the Master Sword was going to be. I actually settled on a much more angelic / holy look to the sword because I thought that was what kind of damage it would do in game. You can see the angelic wings, kind of a lotus flower on the bottom, and just the handle looking like some pillar you'd find in like temple architecture. I kept the blade really simple. You can see there that's a different version I did earlier. The sword isn't purple anymore. It is a gold. I thought that fit really well. Some parallels that I kind of made to aesthetics was Link kind of mixed with Miquella. Now, I did this drawing before Shadow of the Erdtree came out, and I didn't know that Miquella was the way he was going to be in the DLC. There's the sheath for the Master Sword, and so there's a lot of unalloyed gold kind of theming in Link's design. You'll see that with the prosthetic as well as the Master Sword. Here's the completed sword with the sheath. You'll see a version without the sheath in just a bit. I was really happy with this version. I thought it fit the character and the world a lot better than the original. Just this really angelic looking sword, because in Zelda lore the sword originally came from the deities of that world, and so I thought this was a really cool take on it. I'll probably do more with it. I'd love to actually get a physical version of this, maybe 3D print it, or my dad owns a wood shop. Really quick here is the version of the champion's tunic I did, with a lot more embellishment. You can see that I put a lot of like floral design on it. The sword has wings instead of just the sheath. There's wheat on the sleeves. That wheat design comes back in the cloak that I end up doing. There's the wings and an inverted triangle, but then I do end up putting a Triforce on it in the final design, I do believe. And then finally, the Hylian shield. This is kind of one of the last of Link's gear you'll see. I mixed the design of the Erd tree and the Triforce crest together to mix those two dynamics. I don't think that the royal family of Hyrule is the same as the Golden Order. I tried to put some fairies there, it didn't work. But there's that wheat design again. This is basically just a more fancy version of the original design for the Hylian shield, just with the Erd tree there instead of a Loftwing crest. And then it's gold and blue instead of like the silver and blue normally in the red bird. I do end up putting the fairies in there. It's a nice shadow on it. I actually only did this shield very recently. I originally wasn't going to have Link using a shield, but I really liked it. And I took that design from the shield and put it over here. You can see I took some inspiration from the White Tree of Gondor from Lord of the Rings. I don't end up using this one. It's an okay design, but to me it just didn't fit really well, so I just took the same design from the Hylian shield and put it onto the cloak with some extra wings and the wheat being a little bit more pronounced there. I do believe here you can see the Master Sword at the base of the tree. You could compare it to the Deku tree. I don't actually think that the Erd tree and the Deku tree would be combined in this. I haven't really thought about the lore of how this situation would work. I just thought it was a cool idea. And this is just a quick sword. You can see I had a sword just kind of at Link's belt. I call it the dagger or short sword of courage. Just something fun. That design to the left there was my original design for it, but here's the updated one. I think it fits better in the Elden Ring aesthetic and all that. But back to the actual Link design, because that's what we're all here for. This is now my more detailed sketch that I'm going through. You can see that blue that I'm working on is going to be a lot more detailed than the red under sketch. I'm really happy with the pose. It looks very relaxed, but not bored. I do think that Link is best when he is a focused, dedicated hero. I didn't want him to seem forlorn or kind of hopeless. A lot of the characters in Elden Ring have a more somber attitude to their demeanor, and I think Link would be a shining example in that dark world. So I kept him a little bit more hopeful. His colors are a lot more vibrant than a lot of the stuff you would see in Elden Ring. And I like to put all these embellishments on there that say he's been like a hero for a long time. You can see the bandages on the boots to keep his boots together. The scar on his face, I thought that was a really good one. I thought that could transition into that losing his arm from whatever wound that caused his arm to be lost also affected his face and probably his chest too, but you don't see that. I kept the embellishments on the leather and the belts and the boots pretty simple. I didn't want to go too crazy and take away from the overall design and draw your eye to something that I didn't really think wanted to have that. You can see the arm is a little bit more fleshed out. Looks a little bit more like Melania's, but I did add some things to make it its own. In the detailed shot that I'll post on my Instagram, as well as at the end here, you'll see all the embellishments on the armor that have references to a bunch of stuff in Zelda and in Elden Ring. I'm really happy with this design. I didn't really envision it coming out to anything really. I thought it was just going to be something that I did and never really thought about again, but I really, really enjoy this piece. I might do quite a bit more with it. In fact, sneak peek, I was fooling around on my iPad this week, and I toyed around with the idea of doing a Dark Link design. I had only thought about doing Link in the design in the style of Elden Ring, but I'm now thinking I might do a couple characters from Zelda, namely probably Ganondorf, maybe Princess Zelda, and potentially Dark Link. Those main characters that you see all the time. And then I thought Dark Link was a fun addition. I've already done his sword and his shield, and I got a little bit of a sketch for his design. I'm roughing in some colors here. I did a little bit more of a muted blue than you would see on Link's normal champion's tunic. I really like it. You can see Link's hair is a lot longer, a lot more curly. Elden Ring and Dark Souls, just those series in general, take a lot of inspiration from a series called Berserk. It's an anime, or excuse me, it's not an anime. It's a manga you can read. It's got more of that dark fantasy feel to it. But there's a character named Griffith that Mikola was actually, I think, based on or has similar themes to. And so I kind of very small inspired Link's hair by Griffith's. It's very bright and curly and long. I don't think Link and Griffith have the same ideals. You might not be able to see super well here because the quality isn't the best, but I am working on the detailing on the prosthetic arm. I put some Triforces on there, as well as some more vines that we're seeing in other parts of the design, as well as some fairies. I think a Deku Baba makes it in there, as well as just wings and holy designs. I do think that Link would be more of a faithful character. The Master Sword itself, I had an idea for its Ash of War, where it's called Blade of Evil's Bane, where certain weapons in Elden Ring, instead of performing a move when you do the Ash of War, you assume a stance where you stand a certain way, and then you can use your heavy or light attack to do different attacks. I think Link's stance would be called Blade of Evil's Bane, where he raises the sword skyward like he would in Skyward Sword, and if you hold it for a while, you'll get a buff to all of your holy damage. But then if you use a light attack, he'll transition to like a spin attack. And then if you use a heavy attack, he'll plunge his sword into the ground like he's doing a finishing blow. But you can see I added in all of the detailing there when it came to the fabric. There's the gold embellishment on the cloak, which I kept green because I thought that looked really cool and kind of a callback to Link's original green cap, green tunic look, as well as a nice callback to the Breath of the Wild Hylian hood. And then you can see I put the white on the tunic as well. Here's some shadows. I did keep this piece relatively more realistic than some of my other work. Obviously, it's very, very animated, and it's not realistic in any sense of the word. It is much more realistically proportioned as some of my other things. If you go and look on my Instagram, you'll see some of the characters with bigger heads, skinnier limbs, and at this point, the design itself is basically done. I'm just messing around with the background now. I tried a couple things with just like paint strokes, but then I thought these squares made it look a little bit more professional. I do have a couple different pieces to show here, but this is the final piece. Here we have Link in all of his glory. I love this piece. I was really happy with it. I can't wait to do more with the design. Again, I might 3D print a miniature of it. I just had a lot of fun with it. It's definitely not perfect, and there's definitely some tweaks that can be made. And I might even make those tweaks later down the line, maybe do an updated one. Here's a version with the Hylian shield. I wasn't sure I wanted that shield in there, but I thought this looked really good with it. Just kind of ties the whole piece together. Here's a spread of all of the pieces that I did. Starting from the left, we have the shield, transitioning into the champion's tunic, Link himself with the dagger of courage, the cloak of the hero, the master sword with its Ash of War, Blade of Evil's Bane. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you guys have any comments below. I'll just kind of let it fade out, and you can enjoy this landscape piece I did of it. But again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Take a look at my Instagram. It should be linked in the description below. But thank you so much for stopping by, guys.